Well, welcome to our October jam session, and today it's all about the magic of ritual. And I am so excited about this topic because this is just one that's near and dear to my heart. I bring and play up in a lot of ritual in my life, and so does Sarah. And there is so much magic that occurs when we play in ritual. And so we're going to talk about that as we get in. A couple things before we kick off. I want to just mention a couple things for everybody who is on the call today and for everyone who logs on. I hope you're thinking about coming to Ignite. So Ignite is literally 2 weeks away from today, and you guys all have $129 tickets for VIP tickets that you can attend both days if you want to, or you can just attend the first day with it. Either way, you've got a VIP ticket for just $129. You can bring a friend for $50. Or if you want them to have a VIP ticket, you can have them come for $99. So you could even split that, you could split the total of that for two people and, even bring your cost down further. So it is what I'm super excited about is like, this is, I think you guys have seen a lot of change happening this year with us. And this is like me bringing together all of my best stuff. And I'm so excited about it. So I hope you guys will be there. Dan, I know you're already signed up. I look forward to seeing you guys there. Bring your friends, tell your friends. And so make sure that you're doing that as we're getting close. So November 2nd and 3rd. And the third is all about for entrepreneurs, and then the first day is a full day Ignite, which I think you guys have all been to an Ignite in the past. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you there. That's what I would like to do. Is I'd love to see you all there. So power of ritual. A couple of things I wanted to talk about on this before we kick off, and it's for me. I really started thinking about what is power of ritual for me and why is it so important. And what really came up is that is such an essential part of my life. Ritual is something that I tune into on a daily basis. It's something I tune into on a regular time period basis, and we'll talk about some of those different time periods. But what I love about it is it's what creates the magic in my life. And when I get that magic happening after I've been working in rituals and after I've been playing in rituals, things change. Things shift. And so how about you, Sarah? What are you excited about when it comes to ritual?
To me, ritual is just super special, and it's about the time that you're taking to say, okay, what is it that I really want to focus on in my life and create all sorts of positivity around it. And it's also, to me, like, so there's that positive side, but to me, it's also just this way to move through stuff that doesn't feel really great.
Right.
Like when I know that stuff is sticky or I'm really feeling conflicted, I know that I can drop into a ritual space and it just shifts things for me.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about ritual. And I'm also just excited about hearing how other people are incorporating ritual into their daily lives. And so can't wait for today's topic, and I'm ready to dive in.
Yeah, let's do. Let's do.
Awesome. So I think it's always interesting when we dive into new topics to really define what it is and ultimately also what it isn't. And I don't know about you, but when I think about ritual, it sometimes makes me think of things like church or religion. And so I think that it's important for us to say that, like, however you define ritual is going to be unique to each and every one of us. Right. And so I don't want you to like look at ritual and be like, oh my God, I need to freak out because it's, something weird or something religious or something, whatever you want to fill in the blank. To me, ritual is about, finding sacred space, right? Creating sacred space to do work, right? And so I don't like the religious part of that piece. Like if you look at the definition that's on your screen, it's really about the ceremonial piece of what you're doing. And it's consisting of a series of actions or a series of thoughts or things that you perform that have a specific order. And outside of that, I don't like to put a lot of definition around it. It's just the stuff that feels good in a process that I can continuously go back to. And so I would like us all to just kind of be open to, well, I used to think of ritual like this, and maybe today you might get new idea to incorporate into your definition. So today we're going to talk about practices that are powerful ways to go inward, right? And that we can unleash new energy. And yeah, they might have a specific order to it. So when you think about ritual, you might have several types of ideas that pop into your mind. And it could be things that are associated to annual community events, for instance. And so as I was thinking about, things that happen every year, I was thinking about the ritual of going to stock show. Like for me, that's a time where, you get together, at least for me, a lot of my friends are in town and there's always good food and there's activity and we have a specific place that we go to. And it's all with that intention of connection and celebrating, for me, like Western heritage and that piece. And so there was stock show. Then there's things like, the ritual of like a powwow. I love like when there's powwows that come to town because there's culture, there's history, there's story, there's beautiful garb and the visual appearance that you get to see, the costume that goes with it, and just that tradition. There's weddings and baby showers and childbirths, like when babies are born, there's definite ritual that as communities we wrap around, whether it's what we do for the mom or the baby or, gifts, like there's definitely a process that you probably go through. Anniversaries, deaths, I think is an area where there's a lot of ritual, whether it's, the funeral process or, if you have cremated ashes and what you're going to do, like the ritual of releasing, so death might have a ritual to it. And then there's things simple like New Year, right? We know when there's a new year, it's time to, set new intentions and to go through rituals of planning and preparing and those types of things. And so there's that, there's holidays. And then there's even things like flirting rituals or love rituals. And so all of that stuff is on the table for discussion today. And Cami and I are each going to share some of the unique rituals, for how we, live, how we do business. Even things like, the ways that we start equine vision journeys. Like we've got a ritual for what we do and how we, create that container for, the magic to unfold, and for people to step into bolder new territory. So as you think about ritual, whether it's, spiritual or cultural, it can go lots of different ways. So, Cami, what would you add about the definition of ritual and how we're going to move today?
Oh, I think you totally nailed it. I think there's just so many, we can look at ritual from different perspectives. And I think, the cool thing is you can create ritual around anything that you want to, whatever feels important to you, you can wrap ritual around it.
Right.
Yeah. And for me, it's about making space to go inward, so it's like there's this message inside, those soul messages that are there. And when I thought about what ritual meant for me, these are some of the words that came up for me. So it's listening, it's the magic, and you've heard me already say that a couple times. It's about honoring and respecting a circumstance, a person, our own life, our own journey. It's about flowing. It's about our heart, tapping into our heart. It's about creating. It's about spirit. And whatever spirit means to you, you can wrap that around that. And I'd love to hear what words pop up for you guys when you think about what ritual means. Carolyn, what comes up for you?
I think just having something that you do consistently in a particular circumstance, like you were saying, Sarah, when you get stuck or something like that, or I'm thinking like, okay, after I've really put myself out there, I need to honor myself and go back into me and have my quiet space. So that's kind of my ritual to know I need to take a time out. It may look like something different every time, but it's the stepping away and recharging.
Yeah. Thank you. How about you, Debbie?
I wrote down sacred space.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's such a word that, it's like we create that container. That's good. How about you, Dana?
I wrote down dreaming.
Right. That's a great thing to be doing with ritual is to, just to dream and be, it's like guided meditations or shamanic journeys are certainly a great way to really create sacred space and listen to those messages inside. So that's awesome. Thanks, guys. So what this is something I think that we can think about is it can be planned or it can be spur of the moment. And I picked up a couple of things here that I just dropped on here for examples. The feather, I was on a walk. It's like, oh, I found this very, very cool feather. And it made me stop. It gave me space. It showed up for me. I was curious, what do I want? I want to honor this feather, this gift that I found. So in that very spur of the moment, I did that. I have an owl on here because I think you guys have heard me talk about owls enough times. But, it's like just a few mornings ago, I opened the door to let the dog out, and owl's outside calling. And so I go outside and I sit in the dark and under the stars with my big blanket wrapped around me and just listen to the owl. I mean, that's totally ritual, right? It's like being in that space, feeling it, hearing it, connecting into what does that mean for me. It's a beautiful thing. The one above that is actually from a ritual that I created when I was doing the Sacred Rose Initiative earlier this year. And it was as we were wrapping up, I walked up the hill above my house and I created this little altar, and I pulled one of the roses out that I'd been using in the class, and I put together all these other things. So it was very planned. So it can be planned or it can be spur of the moment. It's totally up to you guys how you do that.
That's right. And I think that one of the biggest takeaways that we hope that you have today is that ritual doesn't have to be super complicated. It can be really, really simple. And you've got 3 big chunks that you see there on your screen. Right? And so the first piece is really just to get intentional. Like, what's your end in mind? Why are you setting focus around whatever it is that you're setting focus around? Right? And so maybe it's something where you want to set some new personal or professional goals, or it's the new year, or it's the full moon, right? Where you want to, honor and figure out, what is there to let go of, what is there to celebrate. Maybe it's clearing out of old energy. Maybe it's welcoming in new ideas and possibilities. Maybe it's strengthening relationships or building just personal strength. Whatever that issue or that opportunity is, you just get really clear and say, what the heck is it that I'm trying to accomplish here? What am I hoping to do in this time? Then you look at that second piece and say, okay, what can I do to create this sacred space that helps me to feel special, right? That it isn't just me going through the motions, that I've really intentionally created this pause and say, what feels good and what's going to help me to connect to something that's bigger than yourself. And that bigger than yourself piece is just knowing, like, there is kind of that magical, that spiritual, that I know that I'm not just talking to myself and nothing's going to happen. It's like I'm putting something really cool out into the universe. And so let me create this container that lets me do this in a really beautiful way. And so maybe that is you creating an altar of sorts where you've got special artifacts and a cool pillow that you want to sit on. Maybe it's you, like, sometimes ritual for me is as simple as just lighting a candle and getting some essential oil and like smelling it and then like setting that intention. So like it's super, super simple. Or maybe it's like sitting next to running water. So no matter what that space looks like, again, what just feels good and that connects you to that something bigger than yourself. And then the final piece is really just to decide, okay, what are the ritual tools that I want to use during my time? And we'll in our next slide, we'll show you a couple. But, if I had to kind of crystallize it into what it really needs to happen, it's like, well, if you want it to be a ritual, it has to be intellectually satisfying, right? So it's whatever you created, it feels good to your mind, your body, all of that. It's got to be emotionally satisfying as well. And so if it meets that criteria for whatever you say to be emotionally satisfying, you're good. And it has to have a strong beginning and a strong end, right? Because we remember we put attention around that start and then that powerful, okay, bum, 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 here's the so what, no, the so what, now what. So as long as it meets that kind of criteria, I think you're good to go. So the tools that you have at your disposal, are limitless, really. And what you see on your screen here are just some idea starters. And for me, journaling is one of the most critical pieces of no matter what kind of ritual I'm doing. And that allows me to like process whatever it was that I was thinking about. And again, we've talked about the power of seeing your ideas in your own hand, right? And going through that process of physically writing it down. So maybe it's having a really cool journal and a nice pen that you love. You know, fire is a big component for a ritual for a lot of people. And so maybe that candle is a piece of that. Maybe there's, you know, that kind of sensory thing that you want to bring in with, you know, oils or sage or sweetgrass. You know, maybe you're going to do some smudging as a part of your ritual. Like that's one of the favorite things that I like to do when I'm trying to release or to cleanse or to move through, you know, that sticky shit. So I would love to be able to use smudging. Like that's one of my most favorite. You know, water, inspiration cards or runes. Like I love these because they're like just a frame to say, whatever this idea that's popped up, there's a massive value in considering today, what does this mean for me? And just having that curiosity. One of my favorite C words, right? Curiosity. I think that runes and inspiration cards just amplify your curiosity. Dreaming, we talked about, and how to step into that through, you know, guided meditations or shamanic journeys. Music, you know, to this I was thinking of the drum and the power of a drum in ritual and just having that rhythm and you know, that heartbeat, and just there's power in that. And how do I get my ritual tool of movement or dance into the process? That can be really cool. And then, you know, sometimes the ritual can be like going to a retreat. Maybe I have like this every quarter, every year or something, I'm going to go and I'm going to go through this process that helps me unleash and think of new things. So those were just some ideas. And Cammie's going to share an example of something that she recently did, or a ritual that she recently had for the eclipse.
Yeah. And it was really, really powerful for me. And I think it wasn't just, I think what I'm really fascinated with is it wasn't just in the moment. It's what took place leading up to it. And more importantly, what took place both from a positive and from a negative perspective afterwards. It was like I set this intention up, and so I saw this great opportunity to really put a lot of focus on my new brand, because, you know, I've been going through this. It's like, okay, I've been bringing in entrepreneurs into my business. I've got my core of my business. I had the fire dancer, and I was really looking for clarity, and I wanted to listen, and I wanted to hear, and I wanted to really let it flow from me. And so to start with, I asked myself, what was it that I really wanted to let go, so that I opened up this space for what's new in my life? And what was it that I was wanting to create more of? And what was it that I was tapping into that I really wanted to magnify? What kind of energies did I want to magnify with the power of the eclipse? And so I started with journaling. So, you know, that's a good place to start. Is always to start with some journaling. And the question I was asking myself was, what do I want to release? So this is what I was doing the day before. And so I sat down and I wrote, and some of the things that came up for me were judgment. I wanted to let go of judgment. I wanted to let go of fear. I wanted to let go of pushing. I didn't want to be in that pushing place. I wanted to be more in the flow space. I wanted to let go of the word busy, because I catch myself saying, people were saying to me, how are you? Oh, I'm busy. So I wanted to change that response to be more of, life is full. It's awesome, right? It's full. And there was some grasping that I was doing. I was like, I was wanting these different things in my life. And so what I did was I wrote all of that out and let it kind of flow from me from a journaling perspective. So let it really come naturally. And then I wrote them down on another sheet of paper, and I did a ceremony around releasing those. So I tore them up and I put them into a little bowl. It was a cold night, so I wasn't going to go outside. And so I did it right there, and it was... I burned it in a little bowl, piece by piece, till they were all gone, with the intention of letting it go. And because I really wanted to put all of my focus on the day of the eclipse, on what was it that I wanted to have. And so it was like, okay, here's the ritual of letting go. I can wake up the next morning fully ready for for creating all of the manifesting power. And so I got up the next morning and I journaled some more. And I drew a whole spread of runes. So it was not just a single rune, but it was like, I think it was 6 or 7 runes where each one of them had a different meaning. And I was looking at each one and I was journaling around that. I sat down and I mixed this whole little batch of essential oils that was like, what did I want to come into it? So it was very specific. Okay, what am I drawing into me? What am I manifesting right now? I did a shamanic journey. And as I did the shamanic journey, I had a well show up in my shamanic journey. And when I dug into what the well meant, it was about going deep. So really thinking about how I like to take my clients in on a deep journey, how I like to go deep into who you are, what's your purpose, all this great work, but then also being able to come up and breach the surface and be able to share the words. So there's lots of things that I'm thinking about. It's like, okay, what does this mean to me? And I'm interpreting, I'm being curious, as Sarah said, and I'm saying, okay, what does this mean as I'm interpreting and applying this to my brand, back to that intention, right? I was putting my focus on my brand, and I started looking for words that really resonated for me in the midst of all these different rituals that I was doing that morning. And I seriously believe that the words that came up for me in that day are going to be a core element of what I stand for in my work and how I present myself out to the world, because it's very aligned to me. It's all coming to me from this very, very deep place. And I sat down and I wrote about it, wrote a new essence to my brand. I wrote about who the people I wanted to attract to me were. So, I'm just literally spending a whole entire day making this kind of space for it. And it was incredible. And so there's my morning of journaling, of writing, exploring, being curious, and saying, okay, what does this all mean? And yes, there was candles and there was all these other wonderful things. And then I was like, okay, it's getting close. It's going to start at 10:22 today. I need to go out and create my container. And this is the place that I set up for my container. And so what you see here is you see, of course, my journal. You see there's a bowl of water here. And I really wanted to put energy into the water, which I'll tell you in a moment what happened to that water, but thanks to my husband. I wanted the eclipse energy to be in the water, so I was really super excited about it, right? And I had crystals. I had a chain that was about the chakras. I had very specific crystals that, were what energy that I wanted to be bringing into my future. So I was choosing those rocks, those crystals very specifically. I had Palo Santo, which is like a sage, but it's this part that you see there. I did have some sage. And so I set this space all up, right? And for me, I set this all up right next to the horses. The horses were across the fence line from me, and I was just going to be out in this space. And so I did that. And it was all very intentional. Everything that I did about it was intentional. And again, I was journaling. I'd stop. I just was going to be in that space for the next couple hours. And that's what I did. And, I got some just incredible insights over the course of those couple of days. And even when I gave all of my brand work to my brand person that was helping me out with my new logo and all this, the components of what I want to stand for, I'm building a new website, incredible richness came out of that. And she's like, oh my God, how do I bring the gypsy soul into the strategic planning? It's like, it was complicated, but because I was in this very, very ritual place, she was able to interpret that in such a beautiful way. And it was really super cool how powerful that was. And it's also aligned to, from a manifestations perspective, all the things that are really flowing very, very easily. Within the next week, I was sitting next to this woman who was incredibly powerful, from that I was able to interview on my Extraordinary Women Connect radio, or my Extraordinary Women radio. And so it's like the doors keep opening to all the right things that I'm supposed to be working in. And the clarity's come on what my brand stands for. And it's really, really exciting to me. And it came from my soul, right? It's like I made space to let this come up from my soul. And it's aligned to what I'm supposed to be putting out into the world. And it's flowing in this great, beautiful, intentional way. And there's a huge fire around what's happening in my world right now. So it's really, really exciting. But here's the flip side to this. So remember, I was releasing a whole lot of things, right? I had made, it's like, there was things in my body that I was holding in my body somatically, right? Emotionally, physically, that I was releasing some things. And I can tell you, I believe that there was some real big physical releases that happened through that whole 2 days of that focus. And, I'm sure some of it has to do with the fear around my sister's health. It has to do with fear of taking bigger next steps in my life and, going out and doing some bigger things. And that very afternoon, I started to feel something kind of strange on my face. And I started to go, what's this feeling on my face? Did I sunburn myself? What was it, right? And as it turned out, it was actually shingles. And so I didn't know that for a whole nother week, but it turned out to be shingles. And yes, shingles is as yucky as you hear it is. So when your doctor asks you if you want a shingles shot, you might get one. But a good friend of mine sent me a note in a book that she has. It's called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. And this book identifies the emotions associated with shingles. So there's actually a specific there. And so when you go back to all those things I was releasing, what this book says is fear that you are fearing things won't work out the way you want them. You're oversensitive. There's ongoing tension concerning the situation, hostile energy being manifested, a lack of inner peace. And so there was, this turmoil that was going on that I was putting a lot of intention around releasing. And it sounds a bit like those things in this description that was coming out of the book, right? So it was really, really interesting to me. And to top that off, I ended up having shingles for 2 weeks in September. Had a week of decent health, and then the flu caught me a week later. And so, my curiosity is, was this related to my ritual of releasing? I don't know if that's true or not, who knows? But it certainly is coincidental. And I, have let go of some really big things. And I actually feel a big shift in being able to be really clearly present and open to some of these very difficult things that are going on in my personal life. I have a shift that has taken place emotionally around the fears, around the, the pieces, even in the relationship with my sister, where I've taken on a very accepting space versus a grasping at don't let her go. And so that's it's something that I think I needed to move through. I think that the eclipse just magnified all of that in an incredible sort of way. And it also is opening up doors for new pieces in my life. So that's my story of the eclipse, and it's truly a deeply personal story, right? It's sharing this. Gosh, there was all this wonderful things that are coming out of it, but there's also, we are getting it when you start playing in ritual or working in ritual or whatever the right word is. You're playing with something that is really powerful, that can shift our lives. And I truly believe that that's a way that we can shift things in our life. And you can, you can really change. If you're not liking something, you can change it with the power of ritual.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And one of my friends and I were talking about this last week, and she said it's almost like that magic wand, like you're giving yourself that opportunity to have that magic wand to say, here's all of the stuff that I would like to see happen. Whether it's receiving, giving, shifting, whatever it is. And so it can be extremely personal. It can be, also connected to just your overall daily awesomeness, right? And so the next piece of ritual that we want to talk about is just a simple one that I love to have, like from a weekly perspective. Like I have a Monday morning ritual, and I was playing with the difference of, okay, how would I describe the difference between a ritual and a routine? And routine to me is just very transactional. And what we're describing here doesn't have that feel, right? It brings in, again, that magic piece that we've talked about. And so the routine, and I go through the same steps, but for this is like, no, I want to set the tone for my week that allows me to really capitalize on all the different energy that's in the world, right? So on Mondays, I've got a ritual where I try to do the 5 a.m. wake up. I want to start my week off with awesomeness, right? And then the next thing that I do is like look at the intention of just being healthy, right? I want to have the most effective, great week that I can have. And so I know that as a part of that ritual, there's movement and there's that mindset piece, and yoga gives me that. And so I love starting, like waking up, going straight to yoga. Then after that, I always want to give myself a treat. And so I will generally, on the way home from yoga, if I've gone to practice somewhere else, I'll stop at Starbucks or, just do something that's special to me. And I like to drink it and feel it and be like, yeah, this is the gift that I'm given me for not just being mediocre, like doing something to create better in my world. Right? Then after that, I like to sit down and come home and say, okay, what's the journal? What needs to flow through my pen? Was there an idea that came to me on my mat? Because oftentimes that's the case. Is there just something that I've been, really wrestling through that I want to see greater dynamic around? Maybe. So I'll write whatever I need to write for however long I can. Right? And then it's about, all right, out of all of that, going within, noticing, being curious, what are the two most important things that I need to do this week, right? And we know we've got long laundry lists of to-dos, but it's like, okay, body, mind, spirit, what are those two biggest things? Like if I put only attention here, that would have the maximum outcome, right? And so sometimes it's, project related. Sometimes it's totally mindset related. Like I need to be aware of the scarcity mentality that creeps into my mind, or I need to be aware when I start feeling that knot in my stomach and when I'm letting fear lead me instead of curiosity lead me. So no matter what, they're different every week, obviously, but I always will say, what are those two things? Again, specifically writing it down. And then from there, I say, okay, how do I build time into my schedule to make that kind of stuff happen? And so it's blocking, time out to do whatever's linked to those two biggest things. And so I'll color code and figure out, all right, Wednesday morning, this is what I'm going to do. Or maybe it's scheduling a reminder on my cell phone to say, hey, Sarah, have you thought about something positive today? Or, whatever, again, I know I need to keep that focus around. And so this Monday morning ritual, like when I don't do it, I feel scattered. I feel disconnected to me. I feel like I become my schedule instead of myself. And so I can definitely feel that difference. And so I'm really curious if anybody else has like a start of the week ritual or something that works in terms of, looking at how you're showing up. Anybody do something similar to this or have that start of the week ritual?
I don't have a start of the week ritual, but I have a start of the day ritual that I've been doing now, and that I've been really fortunate to have the time to do since I'm not working. And it can take anywhere from 15 minutes if I'm cutting it short to a couple of hours if I'm being really serious. and a lot of the things that are on my list are the things that you have on your list for the day. So I'll start with a meditation, and probably a good half hour if it's a good meditation, and then I say my prayers to the universe, and after that I set my intentions for the day. And again, this this is kind of long, but I have a lot of time right now, so it's clearing things up for me. So I'll set an intention for the day for my body, for my heart, for my mind, and for my spirit. And with each one of those intentions, I have a specific crystal that is for that intention, and I spend some time around that. And then after I do that, I read either one quote or one section or one chapter of a self-help book, because, and not necessarily self-help, but something that's inspirational. Because then I feel like no matter what else happens the whole rest of the day, I've done something good for myself. And then I finish it up with yoga, and that's really kind of how my mornings are going right now. And I've got to tell you, for those of you that know me, my life up until June has been just a bundle of nerves and anxiety, and I feel like a different person. And this morning ritual has really helped me a lot. I don't know what I'm going to do when I go back to work, but it's going to have to be the short version. but it really has changed my life.
You know, and that is the most important thing that you could be doing right now, because you had physical, emotional healing that you had to do after. It's almost, you know, just kind of brutal environment that you came out of. That healing right now, it's like we know when we need the long. I mean, it's like I knew in August I needed that long focus on the eclipse. I needed to be in that space. There was just too much happening in my life that I really needed to figure that out and make the space for it. It's the same thing that you're making, the choices you're making right now, Deanna, is giving yourself the space to do that. And then we can find the shorter rituals that can maintain us on a regular basis, on whatever that, you know, time frame might look like.
Exactly, and I think one of the best things that this ritual has done for me is it's made me not be frantic. So right after I lost my job, the first thing that I would do every morning was create a list of what I was going to do that day, and then as I would do something, I would put it on my list so that I would feel like I had accomplished something. And that's just so crazy in retrospect. I mean, I'm not frantic about anything, and I'm not frantic about finding a job, and I'm not, you know, I'm being in the moment and in the time, and it's been an incredible gift.
That's awesome.
Wow, the shift to not being frantic is priceless. Yeah, holy crap. Right. I so appreciate you sharing that journey, and, you know, just having that trust too, that when things do shift into, you know, a different, you know, job or whatever, that you're going to find the right rhythm and the right pace to, you know, and the right process that you're going to need to follow, right? Yeah. And sometimes long, sometimes short, but it's yours, and that's what's going to make it important. And that discipline to keep touching back and saying, okay, what is it that I need now? What are those things that I really want to put attention around? And there's all different types of, you know, ritual energy that you can play in, right? As you're thinking about, okay, where can I welcome more ritual in? And so this next slide has just some idea starters for you. Like maybe it's really seasonal. And I love using, you know, that shift between, like right now, obviously we're going from, you know, summer to fall and then into winter. And so what are those things? What are those nods that you can take from the seasons? Like, I just love that meme that's floating around every fall that says, you know, nature's about to show us, you know, how beautiful it is to let go of things. And so maybe every fall you have a letting go ritual that you go into. Maybe every spring it's a, ooh, what's about ready to be birthed? And I want to release some new energy and some new ideas. So the seasons are super fun. Lunar cycles are so cool, whether it's a full moon or a new moon. I mean, you can play in that so much. And even like the feminine cycles, you know, why not? I mean, this is completely natural. And, my husband might make jokes, and, like a week before my cycle comes, he's always like, it's coming soon, right? Like something's happening. Like that's some powerful shit that's happening there. Like, how do I bring that in and know, okay, I honor this femininity and this stuff that's coming and moving through my body.
Yeah, the red tent stuff, right? It's like the total red tent side of things. Care for each other. I mean, care for ourselves, and what kind of rituals of care, self-care can we do during that time?
Oh, yes, I love that. And then just the idea that like you can have a ritual just because you want to do it.
Yeah.
Like you don't need a reason. And, then there's all sorts of stuff within your business, whether, it's brand, like, we've been kind of going through, or it's new clients or existing clients, or, it's the new year, new business. Like there's always the opportunity to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we love doing the medicine wheel ritual as a part of the equine vision journeys, and, the experiential things that we bring into the work, and, honoring, the elders, honoring the child within, honoring the new directions and that illumination, and, that power of the heart. I mean, there's all different ways that you can look at it.
It makes me even just think about, because you and I got to go on that trail ride a few weeks ago, Sarah. Like that was a great ritual. It's like you go on a fall ritual when the trees are changing with your bestie, and it's like that's a wonderful kind of ritual, right? Because that's a friendship ritual. So that's one that pops up for me. And then there's others that pop up for me, and I was thinking about what are some of these. This is a picture that was taken of me in Northern California when I got my EGE certification with the horses. And I was so feeling empowered, right? I mean, you see that in my logo, that's me. I mean, my Syzygy logo, right? It's like, it's the hands up in the air. And I play with that a lot because that's the expanding energy of it. And, we were having fun making our declarations, climbing out on the rocks, yelling our declarations out into the wind. And so it was really cool. I love, and why is this word totally slipping my mind right now? What are these things called?
Labyrinth?
Thank you. I love labyrinths. We have a labyrinth down the street from us, and I love to go walk in that. It's a great way to just kind of tap into ritual. Of course, there's the horses, right? And, animals, right? These were the animals that were popping up for me. The whale coming and breaching out of the water. The snow leopard has been really showing up big for me. Is there an animal for you, Sarah?
Lately, it's been all the butterflies and that transformation and the delicate grace, and just the amount of them. Like that's been making me really curious and saying, all right, how can we float gracefully, and how can I honor that beautiful femininity and that delicateness that we can bring, but also just that power of group, and so coul.
Yes, totally love that. It's been so spectacular. It's been awesome. So we want to hear from you guys. I know Deanna's already shared hers ritual that she's doing on a regular basis. Love to hear from Caroline and Debbie. Go ahead, Debbie.
Hey, it's Debbie. I wanted to also add to Deanna, and I guess it's kind of funny because both of us are quote unquote currently not working, and I have been taking a lot of time to work through a lot of like, what am I feeling at this time, and going in and out of rituals and doing a lot of things. And I've not been working for an employer since December, but there's been things in my life to allow me the extra time. And so I've learned a lot as far as like what rituals do I want more of, what I don't want more of. I've enjoyed not having such a hectic, chaotic life, as Deanna was saying. So, because that was one thing, and I told my husband last night, I said, I don't even know how I'm supposed to go and like get a quote unquote job if I need to go down that path, because there's a lot of things that I've learned that I really enjoy in my rituals in my daily life, and there's a lot of things that I don't, as well as learning a lot about myself. So I've been very lax on my rituals the last month. My grandmother passed away,
Mm.
but I'm kind of getting back into it, and it's funny as I was clearing out a lot of emails and seeing a lot of stuff about morning routines and rituals and this, and then today it's we're talking about that, and so everything's kind of coming together. So I'm just thankful to be here and talk about these things with you guys.
Yeah, and I think it's what you're tapping on there, Debbie, is that we our rituals are, they go through cycles, right? Just like everything else
Yeah.
in our life. And the passing of your grandmother, there's probably nothing more ritual that you could have done is to kind of tune into that and just make that space for honoring your grandmother's life.
Yeah.
So, it's and I think that's what's important. And I think rituals, if we get into the I have to do this, and okay, it's just one of those other tasks I need to make space for, versus tuning into our bodies and saying, what does my body need right now? What does my life need? What does my heart need? That's the difference between saying, oh my God, I have to do this every single day. There's certain days that, I get to get up and meditate in the mornings, and I love that, and it's really helpful. And there's other days that, it's like, there's just a lot of things going on, and it's just not going to make happen. I can't be there. I've got a board meeting to go to, or I've got someplace to be. And so it's not going to happen on that day. And that's okay. And I don't stress about it. So knowing that every evolution of our lives gives us space to um, just tune in and listen. And that's probably the most important thing that any of us can do, is to be able to ask ourselves, what does my body need right now?
And trusting whatever comes up.
Yeah.
And not trying to logically say, oh, no, I don't need that. I actually need this other thing. And thinking your way through it. That's the difference. Routine is thinking my way through it. Ritual is I'm open to all of the things that need to flow through me.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
How about you, Caroline?
So I was thinking about it, and I was unemployed for a little while, and now I've got a job, and I probably, and I don't know that they were rituals, but I think they were routines that I did every day when I was kind of looking for a job, and they bordered on the ritual, but I tried to get into a routine. But now that I'm working, I've realized that I've let a lot of those things go, other than my Sunday morning routine or ritual, because that's when I really find most consistently that I have space for just me, and I get up early and the house is quiet, and I just kind of have that. It sounds weird. It's like, so doing the dishes is like meditative for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the the warm water and the the cleaning, and I feel like fresh, and there's a new start, and I kind of set the tone. But I never necessarily thought of it as a ritual, but I miss it when I don't do it. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to do dishes every day, but there's a process that I go through and I enjoy, and I'm in my head and I'm in my space. You can't do anything else while you're doing dishes, really, and there's a window there, and I can look out and appreciate it's facing kind of north and east, so there's usually some sun speckling through the trees, or a few weeks ago it was kind of cold and foggy, and the way the fog was laying in the valley below, it's just, so I think that's kind of become my weekly ritual in a way, and I didn't even necessarily realize it, but it's my space.
I love that. And what I love about it is it's such a mindset shift. I mean, it's like if you could be going into the kitchen going, oh my God, I have to do dishes, I have to, and instead going into it with the wonder and the awe. So I think that's fantastic.
Right, you've got all of the magic for a ritual, right? You've got a really cool intention of I'm gonna go through this because it feels good, and I'm gonna be open to whatever comes up for me as I'm pondering and doing these things. And then you've got like the space, the window, the water, the dishes, and I bet that there's always some kind of a powerful end where you're like, oh, that feels good, right? You got some clarity, you had new idea, you have a clean house, and there's something that happens. So
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful thing, and I mean, it's just that. I didn't have to again go out and create this whole big process, just stuff that I have to do. It's just that mindset shift, like Cami said. So I love that, guys. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah. It sounded silly, but
No.
yeah.
No.
And when you catch yourself saying, oh, that sounds silly, reflect that back and be like, but it feels good. And am I silly when I feel good? No, like this is what I need to be doing. So it's not silly. It's freaking magical, and I need it and love it and honor that. So yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah. No, I
I
totally.
love that too.
Yeah. What do you love about it, Debbie?
Well, I was going to say, when Caroline, when you were saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, I do the same thing. And I've been really adamant that in my home, I wanted to make sure my kitchen had a window out the sink. And so I do the same thing and I feel like I'm the only one that's very deliberate as far as with the washing the dishes. And I make a point to look out the window and see everything. And so just like you were saying about seeing the fog when it was rolling in that one morning and just seeing all that stuff. And I just always take that in. And I also have some playtime where, like, if I see a squirrel out the window, then I'll, like, holler that for my dog and he'll go chase it. And it's kind of a fun thing. So I just incorporate a lot with the kitchen sink and washing dishes. So it's not silly whatsoever. If that's your thing, if that's your jam, rock on. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Just don't tell my husband I actually enjoy it.
Our secret. Totally our secret.
Absolutely.
That's right. So I realized we didn't put a book in here, and I actually wanted to put a book into this. And there's a new book that's just recently come out that a friend of mine wrote, Dr. Anita Sanchez, and it's called The Four Sacred Gifts: Indigenous Wisdom for Modern Times. Highly recommend it. I devoured the book. Really good book to make space for in your life. So just jot that down. It's called The Four Sacred Gifts, Dr. Anita Sanchez. And then last slide we have here is we've got one more coming up on November 21st this year. And it's all about your creative genius and lighting up that creative genius. And then I also want you guys to start thinking about 2018. We're going to change this up in 2018, and I am going to. I want to make this almost more of an interactive discussion kind of thing. So be curious. I'm going to be putting out a survey here in the next month or so about what jam sessions could stand for. Maybe it's a different name. Maybe it's something different. But it's going to take some new shape. So. I would love to, when I do that, be thinking about what kind of monthly touch point would be really useful for you amongst the Syzygy circle. And, as when I do the survey, please take some time to fill that out. And if thoughts pop up to you between now and then, give me a holler. So.
That's right. And, for the sake of honoring our group, if there are other rituals that pop into your mind that you're like, ooh, I wonder if other people are doing this, please share in our Facebook group. I think this is a cool conversation to continue outside of the jam session. And yeah, let's just help each other be awesome.
Yeah, so much. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you being here. And we'll see you around. Hope to see you at Ignite. Woohoo!
Have a good day.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.